the old saying goes, all you need is a chance. And so that's what we have is a chance. And it's interesting because, there's been a lot of upset victories throughout time, and no bigger or greater upset victory than David versus Goliath. So who knows? We'll see what happens. That's why we'll show up on Saturday night.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Who would have thought, or like we say, thunk it, 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talking about a team, as the coach said, that has a chance for a championship. Now I'm here with some people who will tell you about it. I will introduce each and every one. Adam Batacci, he is the encyclopedia of the group. Everything we need to know, this guy knows it. I can't even get the words out about it. Donna Hopkins, doing this a long time. But at the same time, Donna Hopkins, you look at her sources, they're wrong sometimes. Now, Gary Clark, ratings, I don't need to say anything else. Milton Harden, Homer, Jones. I don't need to say anything else. But what do? We go bring in some other people. 106.7, Craig Heiss. Haven't been on the show for about 5, 6, 7 years, Craig. Welcome back.
Thanks a lot.
Get the DOC, hardest working man in town, Doc. Hey, Doc, you know you had to be on this show first one for the playoffs in a while. Welcome back, my man.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm honored that Gary Clark actually is a part of this because, I mean, I can't even say that, man.
Hey, Doc, he took a cut in pay.
I know it. Yeah.
Hey, Rick,
Now, he didn't do that for no one else.
Hey, Rick, I'm so glad that you're on today because, we'll bring some knowledge today.
We bring it, oh my goodness. I mean, Gary Clark, dude. It's just, every time I see him, even though I'm used to him, it just overwhelms me, man.
Man, you see how cool he look right now?
Oh, look at him. Yeah, he is, man.
White, man. Looking good, like he just got it all laid out.
Wide receivers, man.
Black and white.
Yeah, but can he still do that pirouette in the end zone once he catches the ball?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's get at it, gang. And Adam, I know I can ask you this. When was the last time the Washington team was in the playoffs?
Last time they were in the playoffs was during the 2015-2016 season. They won the division at 9-7, and then followed up that with a loss at home against Green Bay in the opening round of the playoffs.
All right, and we know one thing, that the head coach that they have right now, he was in the playoffs a few years ago, and he had a team at that time was 7-9, and they won. So when he says they have a chance, guys, tell me what you're thinking right now. This is a Washington team going against a Tampa team that everybody thinks is so great. And as I said a few weeks ago, we would not have thought this. Now, I'm going to bring out a little point right away that I don't like. I don't know with this Tampa team if they're rushing the ball well enough to keep Brady off the field.
But Tony, they match up well with Tampa Bay. And Gary would be the first one to say, don't bet against Brady. But this is one time that we may bet against Brady. But Mike Evans is maybe out. It's a day-to-day situation, but they've got Gordon and Antonio Brown has come on. He's had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. And then Brady is basically, Tampa Bay is a passing team. So I think that the defense, if they get after Brady, they can rattle him. I think that's where they beat Tampa Bay, but it can be done. Gary Clark.
Now, Gary, she pointed that.
Wait a minute. First of all, I'm the only guy on the panel that said that we would be in the playoffs. Whoa. I said how we playing in January is how we need to measure this.
Oh, you know
Donna was
Homer
saying-
Jones is coming right back at
I
you.
jump on board, man.
Please.
I said from the
You
beginning,
would say that anyway.
we would be in the playoffs.
Hey, Doc, you see it? You see how Milton jumped up? Whoa. I said.
Hey, Milton know he better defend himself, but I don't even know how you can challenge. That's Gary Clark.
Well, you know, I just
Trying to cover all his bets.
I bring all the highlight films of Gary. That's how I can challenge him. He lets me
okay.
challenge him. No, I wouldn't
Okay.
dismiss this running game for Tampa though. I know the passing game's intact, but that Jones is something to be dealt with. And we get slow. We're slow to start with stopping runs early in games, and we end up finding ourselves giving up chunk yards. So it'll be interesting.
Hey, Mill, when you look at Tampa Bay throughout the whole season, they don't really run the ball. They pass the ball.
But they can. I mean, they can.
They have some people on there that are very dangerous that can run that ball very well. They can run, and the one thing that bothers me, if you look at Washington's last two games, the game prior to the one on Sunday, a team ran on them 10 plays in a row and was successful. The one on Sunday, the team ran on them 7 out of 10 times and was successful. Even though I saw that defensive line playing very good, it's the team, and as Doc, as you know and talk to me, the team that runs the best in the playoffs usually is the team you have to fear when it comes down to cold weather games.
Yeah, you're right. And also shout out to Navina. I got to give her credit because I know there ain't no way in the world you process that thought without her. What bothers me
Mike, cut him off.
About our team is that we had the first drive all year that we've come out of the locker room, took a kick, and went down and scored. First time all year. We don't sustain drives. We don't run the ball consistently. We're playing a guy that couldn't outrun me right now. So I'm glad it's Brady. I don't want Hurst again. I don't want any mobile quarterback. Yeah. And I wouldn't be caught dead without one because it breaks the defense down. By the second half, guys like yourself are breathing intensely, and it's almost impossible to get a guy that has a little mobility. Give me Tom Brady, and if we don't get to him, then we don't deserve it.
We don't deserve to win. I agree.
But here's the other thing too about Brady coming up here to play is the fact that this is the kind of a defense that the Washington football team has that can cause havoc for Tampa. And all you have to do is look at the game they played in Tampa against the Saints and also against the Rams. And a good pass rush and a strong front four can give Tampa all kinds of problems.
Now, Gary, looking at this Tampa team, and we know that Mike Evans he may be out. He's their leading receiver. But at the same time, they still have a strong receiving core, and they still can run the ball well. If pressure, the one thing that the Washington team has to have on this weekend, if they plan on even being in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's important that you put pressure on Brady. If you don't put pressure on Tom, he's going to eat you alive. That's what he can do. When he has time, he'll pick you apart. When he doesn't have time, he is okay as a quarterback. Honestly, he's okay as a quarterback when you put pressure on him, and he has to be mobile because he's not a mobile guy. But if he can stand in that pocket, he can hurt us. But I like our chances. I mean, I do. Yeah. I mean, we have a good defense. I wish we were playing away, quite honestly. We tend to play better when we don't play at FedEx Field for whatever the reason.
Good point.
You know, I mean, we tend just not to play well there. So hopefully this is going to be the change. You know, playoffs, new way, new vision. So hopefully we'll come out there and we'll put a spanking on those guys.
Tony, just one quick. Tony, you know, we wore white at home. Mm-hmm. I hope they go all white. When they in that Knight Rider deal look they've got, they play better. He called it his big play uniform. They did it down in Carolina. But I agree. We got to flip the script on it. We're lethargic at home. We came off a bye week against the Giants and got a mud hole stomped in our chest. We have not been up to par yet, to me, at home. I'm disappointed at home because I'm with Gary on that. Whatever Ron is doing to this team to get them going, what he did up in Philadelphia, that's the first time it's worked. And we got to build on that because for whatever reason, they should have had all the incentive in the world to go after an ordinary Philadelphia team. And we was in a death match, and they didn't even want to win.
Exactly.
Well,
And you know, that's going to come up. But at first, Adam, let me ask you this, and kind of rate Tampa's offensive line, because that may be the most important factor of this game.
Yeah.
If Washington's defensive line can dominate, then I think that they can rattle Brady, because we have seen that at this stage of the game. But if they cannot dominate, not only rate their line, tell me which running back, which I already have in my mind, do you think, Adam, would be the one that we bet to watch out for?
Well, the first one that comes to mind for me is Leonard Fournette.
Yes.
But when I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the things I see is their offensive line doesn't appear to be quite as good as the Patriots were when Brady was there. That gives me a little bit of confidence about their chances should they get a pass rush. Now, to do that, you're not going to be able to blitz. It's going to have to come from your front four. Those guys, each one of their front four are first-round picks for a reason. Now's their chance to show it on national TV in the playoffs.
Milt, what has to happen for this defense early to stop their offense? I know we're talking offense and defense together, but what on this Washington defense? Because really we're talking about what Washington offense need to do, but to me, isn't it really important for them to run the ball, not early, but early and often?
You know, Tony, that does worry me a little bit. Doc mentioned it as well. The fact that we don't have or haven't had a sustained running game to be consistent enough. We've got people that are banged up and trying to, and we've got to be able to run against Tampa Bay. And I know that Todd Bowles knows that as well. And we just with Gibson, he's hurting. And the line, I don't know, Doc, you might want to speak to this. I just wasn't that impressed with what we did with running on against the Eagles, who shouldn't have been an opponent, if you will, in that run game. But I think if we can get, and who knows how Scott will scheme it, it may go that we might see McKissick more than we might see Antonio Gibson, but we've got to be able to run the ball, and that starts with those folks up front. And I didn't see that happening on.
And when you start talking about the folks up front, we have to take a break right now, ladies and gentlemen. But at the same time, we have to worry about our up front people as well. They are really saying that we have one of the best defense front fours in the game. But when somebody can run on you 10 plays in a row and be successful, or they can run on you 7 out of 10 plays and be successful, you're going into the playoffs, cold weather, at home with no fans, and your fans are worried about you not playing well at home. We got something to be concerned about, and we'll talk about that when we come back too. Before we put the offense to bed, we have to take a look at every facet of the game. And Donna, you got some interesting points.
Yeah, Tony, nobody mentioned the offensive line for this Washington football team, which is going to be key going into this game. They're going to have to be able to really protect Alex Smith, who, he struggled a little bit. You can tell that his mobility is not there all the way, and they're going to come at him. But the key people that was in, Tony, is Terry McLaurin being back and able to go. So I'm going to let you hear what they had to say, and even Morgan Moses about being back in the playoffs after all this time.
From 5 years ago until now, man, it's just to see the development of the team, where we're moving, having Coach Rivera and the coaching staff that we have. You're in love with the journey, because the journey changes every year for you. You get older, you get wiser. You got young, talented players like Chase that come in and push you. It's a lot of respect, man. To be able to play 7 years in this league so far, and it's a blessing, man. Every snap is a blessing, man. And I appreciate the guys that we have in the locker room. Brandon Sheriff, I appreciate these guys. Chase, really that's been here for a long time, and I know it means a lot to those guys.
I was sitting on my couch last week, and I'm like, if there's any opportunity that I could come out here and just be out here, you know what I mean? Just, being a captain, being a guy that guys, respect, my main focus was just trying to be out here. I didn't really care about catches or yards. I just wanted to be out here for my guys. Although we've been through this year, ups and the downs, it was for this moment right here. It wasn't pretty, but we came out on the other side and we're champions. So, you know, a long road ahead, but I was in a walking boot all week and I couldn't practice. And, you know, that was killing me too, because you know, I like practicing, and, you know, Alex couldn't practice and Taylor was getting reps. You know, you just want to get out there and get a rhythm, give guys some confidence. But Thursday I started turning the corner. I knew I had a chance to play, and nobody was going to tell me different after that. So
I felt, I mean, obviously it different over the course of the day. Definitely in the beginning of the game felt pretty good, moving around and feeling light on my feet. Definitely the second half, though, obviously I you know, feeling it a little bit, but you know, left a lot out there in the second half as an offense. Certainly a bunch of plays I wish I had back, but good enough to go. I felt good enough.
The key thing too, Tony, is that with Terry being back was so key, Alex Smith, but they've got to be able to put more than 20 points on the board, I believe, against Tampa Bay going into that game, because I don't think it's going to do it. They've got to be able to score and keep going.
Hey, G, you always tell me how important the wide receivers are. On Sunday, I agree with you totally. How important are these receivers in this game coming up with Tampa on both sides of the ball?
I mean, I really think it's always important that you have all facets. Like Doc said earlier, it's important that you have all facets of your team playing well, especially from the receiver standpoint, but you also have to be able to run the football as well. The receivers, in my effect, I think they had B-, C+ game, quite honestly, because you can look at, you know, like nobody really got more than 50 yards. That's, I mean, you get 7 catches and you get 40 yards. That's something else. But him being able to come out there and play is huge, though. Terry being coming out to work through it, power through it, come out there and play is huge. His performance on the field, making clutch catches when he has to make the clutch catch, when you need to pick up that 5 yards to pick up a first down, you know, to pick up to move the chains, to score a touchdown. So he's an important segment to that offense, and I think he's going to have to come out and play even better this week against Tampa Bay, even better than he did before. And you know what? He's a beast, though. He's got over 2,000 yards in his first 2 seasons. That hasn't really been done before. I did it, but other than me.
That's a nice little drop in right there. Hey, Doc, that's just like when I used to get 5 sacks. I say, yeah, Dexter had a good game except for the 5 that I got.
That's right. No question. And you got them in less snaps. Yeah.
That's right.
No, they hated you. You coming in.
Heisey, let me ask you this, though. You know, and you look at this whole thing, everyone is indicating, as well as myself, how great this defense can be, and mainly because of the defensive line with the 4 first-round draft choices, 1 coming off the bench. But when a team can run on you 10 straight plays and be successful, but a team can throw on you 7 out of 10 and be successful all 10, are they starting to wear down, or are they maybe not as good as we think?
Well, if it's late in the game, I think it's a possibility they wear down. But look, to me, between the 20 and 20s, you can give up as much as you want if you bend, don't break. But my point is here is when you're facing this Tampa team is to put pressure on Brady. That'll solve a lot of your issues. I don't think they're going to run the football that well against the Washington football team's defense. And to me, the one thing that I think more than anything else that I saw out of Sunday night's game was the fact that, and this worries me about Alex going forward, is Donna brought up the fact that he wasn't maybe as mobile, certainly, but we saw some things there where he was struggling trying to get some oomph on the football. You need your legs to be able to do that. And there were times that didn't happen for Alex in that game. Now, the one time that it did, and I thought he stepped into some throws, was the touchdown reception right before the half ended, which gave them the lead back. But I'm a little bit concerned about Alex going forward in this.
Hey, Doc, you was in the room a lot of times when Coach Gibbs was set up the offense and what he thought would be the best thing to start with, and I think he used to script the plays. If you were scripting the plays for this game against Tampa Bay, what plays would be their first 5 to 10 plays you think the Washington team should run?
I would really take a page out of our old playbook back in the 80s against Dallas. I want to see Gibson get the ball 5 straight times. And I would pick a side. I mean, I love our left side. I'm going to tell you, Schweitzer and Lucas, the job that they've done on our left side, they get no credit, and that doesn't surprise me because the experience, the Pro Bowls, the name guys on the right side. Well, the left side outplayed them last week. I'm going to tell you that straight now. If you don't believe me, cut the film on. And so, and they played without the best player in the league at his position. Philadelphia, he didn't even play. So that bothers me, but I would pound that rock. I'd get in 3 tight ends if I have to. I'd turn into a manhood issue. We got all these big people, and we don't use them. We got them backing up. I want them going forward. I'm going to win the line of scrimmage. Then I'd open things up and throw it and do the whole thing. But that's not going to happen because it hadn't happened all year. And our coordinator, doesn't seem to believe in that. So that's why, to me, it's anybody's game because I have no idea what they'll do.
Hey, Milt, I know that you had to some kind of way got a message to Doc. You remember that old song, Get a Message to Michael? Someone had to tell him something about that offensive line and the defensive line and stuff. What do you see? Help the guy out a little bit.
Well,
I know a lot of things, but come on, help me, Milt.
I couldn't say this right. Don't put me in that kind of predicament, Tony. Doc actually weaned me on the sideline there at ORFK, so I have to give props. I have to give props what it do. But here's my thing.
Mike, make sure that Milton's not on the phone show any longer.
Yeah, I might not be back after the commercial. Listen.
Stay strong, Milt. Stay strong.
Listen, so here's my question for Doc, because Doc, you just made reference to it. On that right side, and I know I saw it a couple of times myself, at the Pro Bowl level, you can't end up in the backfield like that on passing and running plays. Is that a concern to you? And I'm gonna call names and numbers, but I'm just saying.
Well, here's what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, oh my.
This has been happening consistently. It's not new. Nothing's new. I love Big Nasty. I love his demeanor.
Yep.
He's missed a couple of games. He's not the guy he once was because his biggest treat or skill set is in the open field. He is the best I've seen in space at his size. Bostic was the best I've ever seen, but Bostic was doing it at 255. This guy is 310, 320. He's vicious, but we don't run those plays anymore. The things that made him who he is, in my opinion, we don't run them.
Okay.
So we're forcing him to be something that doesn't put him in the best light. On the other side, though, them boys coming off the peel. I'm telling you, the left side, just take a look at it.
And you say they don't get the noise, but the fact that they don't get the noise is the plus to them because you don't hear their names.
Yeah, if Gibson get 8 yards on 1 carry, I'll bet Gary Clark's check that he ain't getting it again. All right.
This check, Doc.
Yeah. One of his checks. All I'm saying, yeah. Hey man, he's got all different types. What do you call those? They say they're of income streams. He's got a number of streams of income. Yeah. It's my hero.
Hey, Tony, can you go back to the defense right quick? Because I want to talk to you about 2 players that really have stood out this year, and that's Chase Young and Montez Sweat. But I'm going to let you hear what they had to say first. But these 2 guys are like a duo together. I mean, a great combination, and you've seen that week in and week out with these 2 guys. I mean, not taking anything away from the other guys, but these 2 guys seem like they have really gelled and created some havoc, and that's what they're going to need this coming week. But let me let you hear what they had to say, and then I want you to make a comment or talk a little bit about them.
Everything that we've been through this season with my team, it's just a brotherhood, man. Love for one another. I just remember when we was 1-5, and I just crazy, but we're not done though. It's we're not done. Definitely a big challenge. It's Tom. You one of the best to ever do it.
they say the best ever do it. So we just gotta focus up. We gotta lock back in. Game come back fast. We playing Saturday, so it's go time. It's that time.
It's just a testament to how much work we put in this offseason and how much adversity we had to overcome and how much we just kept on pushing. Even tonight, it wasn't easy. So it's just a testament to the guys in the room and the character that Rivera is building here. It's a winning culture. It's a hungry culture, and it's everybody holds each other accountable. So that's got us heading in the right direction. Of course, Jack has been a great addition for us. I feel like the scheme change was definitely a big difference for the front to get out there some more. But I mean, it's just all the guys buying in. Everybody's buying in. Everybody's playing for the guy next to him.
He talked about the scheme changing too. So could you talk about those two players and also the scheme this year versus the previous years?
Well, they got a different scheme, and we only got about 10 seconds. So when I come back out of break, I'll talk about it. But the one thing that really jumped out of me at that whole interview was the confidence that both of those had. Not only do they have confidence, they're very good players. And we'll talk about that after the break. As we left for the break, we were talking to two young men, two #1 draft choices that are playing pretty well right now. And what I like about them and what I said was the confidence. But when I look at this whole defensive line, I see a confidence there, but I do see at times it seems as though they are tired or maybe not reaching the potential. Now, as far as Sweat, on Sunday, I saw one of the best games I've seen him play. Uses hands well. He's a lot bigger than people think. And at the same time, he's agile. Got a long gait. That's one thing he'll have to work on for the simple aspect. You got a two yards to work within. So you can't take the long gait and get really off. You got to move your feet. Now, when you talk about Chase, you talk about a young man with a motor that's out of this world. But as I told you before we went into the break, the one thing that I'm impressed about is both of their confidence. It wasn't like we're young people, we're going against Brady, we're going against Tampa Bay. It was like we need to do what we need to do. What do you guys think about that? With that attitude, I think they really do have a chance. And one thing you all have said, and Rick, I don't know how who did you ask me for the game? This may be the one matchup that Tampa Bay did not want.
Don't forget, Mac, Donna and I spent a lot of years on the road, okay? So I've got a number of sources. So, don't worry about where I get my information. Just be glad I had it, okay? Because, now, man, everything
we ain't giving you no recount.
I know, yeah. No, everything we're saying, we're all right. Only thing I can't predict the personality of this team. They've been Jekyll and Hyde. I wish I could. I don't know. We were in a knife fight with an opponent that had no arms last night. So that frightens the hell out of me in one instance. And then the other is I've seen them flash, and I know what they're capable of doing it. I just don't know if they're in command to control it on demand.
I saw one thing. I want to finish with this defensive thought process, because as we talk about, it's three facets in the defense too. A couple of the linebackers I see are starting to step up their game, but they're also making plays that I think, and one of them is Holcomb. He made a play that I didn't think he could make, so I'm not going to down him about that play. But I just don't see our defensive backs being able to cover Tampa's receivers at this point. I haven't seen that, and I want you to tell me what you see. Do you think these defensive backs can cover those people that Brady has to throw to?
I think it depends on the front four getting pressure. If they get pressure, they cover them. If they don't get pressure, it could be a little bit sticky for us. But the key is pressure at the end of the day. And the key is just stepping up to the challenge. What I like about our defense is they tend to play well when they need to play well. They do. You don't see a lot of points on the board. A lot of teams don't put a lot of points on the board, which is important. Like Craig said, as long as you stop them before they get to the 20, 25-yard line, something like that, where only got to worry about giving up 3 points as opposed to 6 points or 7 points. That's important. But I think the defensive back has always, it's been like a sore for us for a couple of years, other than that JMU boy.
You're right.
From JMU is okay.
G, what school did you happen to go to?
I happen to go to James Madison University.
James from JMU and James to James Madison, right? Hey, Adam, what does this team, special teams, need to do? And we spoke on everything to this time, but what do you see with them? What can they bring to this game? Because when we played in playoffs, we were speaking before this show, Mike Nims and Monty Coleman and all these people, we expected 2 to 3 big plays out of them each and every game. This special team, what do we need from them?
Okay, so I got several things I want to say here. One,
I don't know if you got several minutes.
Team, Dustin Hopkins needs to be as clutch as he's been all year. That's number one. Number two, I'm very concerned about Steven Sims Jr. As fast as he is known to put the ball on the ground. That cannot happen at all against Tampa Bay. And then when you look at Tress Way, he's got to win. He's got to pin the Bucs deep on every time he gets a chance to punt the ball. That's key because you give Brady a longer field, it makes it harder to score touchdowns.
I like those points, but someone tell me, Craig, one of you guys tell me, what about the people that's stopping their offense on the kicking game? And what about our kicking game having a better offense, trying to advance the ball?
Well, I like our kicking game. I mean, I think Hopkins is very dependable. The one thing I think we talk a lot about the football team's defensive front, but let's not forget Tampa's defensive front and the way they can put pressure on the quarterback. And that's been pretty evident this year. And that could spell some trouble for Alex, especially, he'll have another 6 days in between games to get a little bit more mobile. But I think what you saw last night out of Alex is pretty much what you're going to see. He's going to have to be able to move around a little bit in the pocket and be able to deliver the football and get away from some pressure. If he can do that, and let's hope, and Rick was talking about this, let's hope that the I knew I was going to do it once, that the football team goes ahead and has some semblance of a running game. If they have an semblance of a running game, that'll make life a lot easier for Alex Smith.
Just in case we didn't tell you, we got a can that you will have to donate some money to when you use the R word like that, okay? From henceforth. But we didn't tell you, so we'll let it go this
I gotta tell you, I did updates at the station all last 2 weeks, and I didn't do it once, not once. But it is.
Oh, you nervous because you're on with Doc Walker? Is that what it is?
Well, that's what it is. And as Doc says, it is what it is.
Tony, I would say to Craig's point, it looks like on both sides of the ball, we have the potential to have two findable. It'll be easy to locate Alex and Tom Brady. So the defensive lines on both sides will probably have equal access, if you will. One thing I will say, and it is to Craig's point, we do not want to forget about not only just the defensive front for Tampa Bay, but all of that cerebral activity that Todd Bowles has. That he credits Richie Pettibone for giving him his foundation. And there were times that I used to sit and talk to him as he talked about, this is when he was playing, as he talked about defensive schemes and what's going on out there. It was almost like we're talking with Doc. I mean, he's a brilliant mind, and he will bring the house toward Alex, especially knowing that he can't, he's got some mobility problems. So we do need to be on guard for that.
So you said, how is that like him, like talking to Doc? That's a whole different ball game there. One person know what he's talking about, and one person is guessing.
Don't hate.
I ain't gonna say
Donna,
which one.
Donna, where are you, Donna? See, this is where you get.
I'm trying to help, but what is scary, Tony, to me more so about this game is this Washington football team. Rick hit it. You don't know what to expect for them, but they cannot afford to start off slow and get behind in this game. Yeah. Because if they get behind in this game, it's going to be hard to move forward. So to me, that's the key thing is getting off and not turning over the ball. They can't afford to turn over the ball. Against Philadelphia, they turned over the ball, and thank God, like Rick said, that they were depleted. But against a Tampa Bay team that can put up points, 44 they did last week, they've got to be able to score points, Tony, and not get behind in this game.
Well, wait a minute. Milt answered the question. I asked about Rick, and you come up with what Rick said. What?
Yeah.
Hey, Rick,
You're hearing that a lot.
Rick,
You're hearing that a lot throughout the whole show.
I mean, I heard his name twice, and that he hasn't said anything right yet.
Donna usually says my sources. She usually says my sources.
The football people know what I'm talking about. No, seriously.
Listen to you, Rick. When you died frame that when you put it A, B, C, D, Milton was still trying to catch on, and then Tony just didn't hear you.
See, here's my problem. My problem is that I'm used to speaking from a professorial level. I'm talking to a room of extremely intelligent people that are at the top of the level.
5 years old in kindergarten.
So I have to slow down and I have to dummy down. Okay, I keep forgetting. Okay, so that's my bad. So
your bad.
Hopefully, yeah, my bad. Yeah, I tell you one thing: if we don't get our stuff together, see Schwartz from Philadelphia. To me, he's kicking himself in the behind today. We got a man that's not mobile. Alex used to be highly athletic. Right now, I'd have been blitzing him every down. He can't get off the spot. And once he figured out the second half, he started sending them safeties over and over and over. Alex killed him on the 1 to 82. Man, can you get Alex off his spot? That's if I'm Tampa, I'm bringing it from all angles. And will Alex feel good enough? Can we roll him out just a little bit? We got to get him from behind the center if possible.
But you know what? And you said something. You said Schwartz may be kicking himself, but he may not, because when we talk in this next segment, we'll talk a little about the segments or the teams and the different ones that's in there. But really, if we have to guess, do we think on Sunday that Philadelphia really wanted to win that game? I mean, it was obvious. We will have to talk about it because people are talking about, they let them in. If it's left up to me and Gary and Rick, we joke around and one thing that each of us would tell you, it doesn't matter how you get to the playoffs.
No question.
Get there.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. And we had some jokes going on during the show, and we were talking about when you get an opportunity to get in the playoffs, what do you do with the money? And as you probably recognize, when we were doing it back in the 70s and 80s, it was nothing like it is now, is it, Doc? That's why they say they let these guys in. When we did it, Doc, what did we do? We started measuring what we could do from henceforth.
Yeah, well, I always tell people all the time, Gary Clark's incentive checks were bigger than our salaries. I mean, see, so we start seeing that new breed of athlete come in. Me and Mac, everything we talked, we spent hours talking about, man, it was adding on. You expanded a driveway, putting a pool table room, something. It was all construction based, and then and then that group from that point, they started talking about aircrafts and yachts and the whole thing, and singing power boats, and whole different ball game, man.
Right.
My incentive check is bigger than my salary too.
Hey, Doc, we talking that with playoffs, so I get a chance to finally go over to G's house when they're in the playoffs one time, and I go to this house. Butler's at the door.
Oh, no question.
Kind of cars in the front, and wait, let me tell you, I had about 30 bedrooms, and the person that came to the door, I said, "Is Mr. Clark home?" They said, "Oh no, this is the pool house."
Hey, Tony,
What they
the doorbell rings for the doorbell rings for 15 minutes. You gotta wait for
how long? I thought it was 12. It was.
It's like a song. It's like a song.
Out of Centerville. B. Mitch is out there right now. I ain't never seen nothing like these places in my life. Man, G, I was trying not, you walk and play, you try not to look like you're overwhelmed.
Don't bring up Great Falls, Doc.
No, I'm just saying. Come on, man. Don't make fun of me.
Zip code.
Don't make fun of us, man. Seriously.
You know what, though? It's funny that we're saying this, ladies and gentlemen. You probably think a lot of it is joking, a lot of it is real, but at the same time, we're telling you how important the playoffs were to us. And I think one
Yes.
of the questions we all have in the back of our mind right now, and any of you can kind of answer it if you want to, are these guys, do they have that same feeling? Because they got better bankrolls, they got longer careers, they got more resources. Do you think they have that same hunger that we had for these playoffs?
I hope so. You would hope that. You hope any athlete that's competing would have that hunger to go out there and win, because ultimately you're trying to get to the Super Bowl. So I hope they have it. I don't know, but I hope they do.
And even in a season where you know that you might not be going to the playoffs, let me ask the three of you, Tony, Doc, and Gary, did you ever play a football game that you didn't go into it thinking or knowing or wanting to win it?
Well, you know what? It wasn't as much as the winning the game. You wanted to win your job.
Mhm.
Every game was an interview. And if you did not do your job, it was somebody waiting there to take it. So now when I look at these playoffs, and I don't want to get too far away from them because we got about 5 minutes left. As I look at the teams, if this Washington team gets by Tampa, it's not inconceivable that they can make some noise.
Sure, matchups, absolutely.
I
I
think
think
they'll
so.
end up playing like the Saints if they get past Tampa Bay, which will be an interesting game. And even Green Bay that's coming on and playing really well right now. So I think this Washington team can match up with those two teams.
When you look at those two teams, to me, Green Bay is going the way that their quarterback goes, and he's going very well right now. But we've also seen last week and the week prior that they can be ran on. They also can be scored on. You look at the other teams that's supposed to be the top. New Orleans, I tell you what, a few weeks ago, they thought maybe Breeze was losing it. So I'm not enamored with them. So what I'm looking at, really, the Washington right now, and come on, Homer, tell me, they could be playing the best NFC team that's in the playoffs.
I think so. And, I guess it's probably just to this week, speculating about who we might play. I can finally see this as a fairly good matchup for us. In fact, I was so encouraged to hear Donna. She changed her tone a little bit. She used a term. She said, this will be an interesting game. In weeks past, I don't even know if we,
Milton.
I don't even know if we could have, been on the same field with Tampa Bay, but I think it's a good matchup. And I think if that running game is present, I think defensively and the running game could help make this a victory for us. I truly believe
Donna only said that because she dropped her shovel on the way into the show that she was going to bury him with. Back to that, Adam. Tell me another NFC team that you think could be in the running. Now we talk about New Orleans and we talk about Tampa. Could Washington be that third team?
It's possible. The team I would try to stay away from playing, though, would be Seattle, just because mobile quarterbacks have given this team a lot of problems. But a team like the Rams, for example, they could play well against them. Anybody that doesn't have a mobile quarterback, I think Washington can beat them and on any given Sunday or weekend for that matter.
Now you guys tell me this. The only thing about Seattle that I don't like, they're too dependent on their quarterback. If he have a bad day, they got a bad day.
They had some hiccups, Tony.
Come on, I got a minute. Hit me, Jed.
He doesn't have too many bad days. I mean, that's the problem. He
That's right.
You don't have a lot of them.
G said it.
Hiccups. And I think the Rams defense, you want to stay away from them because their defense is one of the best in the NFL this season. So I think it's all predicated not so much on other teams, but what this Washington football team comes to do game in and game out.
Before we take this breakdown, what was the Rams' record?
They in the playoffs, Tony.
See how she would not answer that, fans. We'll not answer. When we come back, we'll answer because the next thing I'm going to ask her, where are you standing in the picks? But I'm not asking her. I'm asking Mike Baker. We'll be back in a moment.
Number one.
Welcome back. And when we talk about playoffs, that's the ultimate for any football player, basketball player, whomever's in sports, as well as the fans. And we know right now with what is transpiring, we had no idea, as I said 3 or 4 weeks ago, that the Washington team would be there. They are there now. Now we're looking at the opportunity that if you look around the league and that's on both sides of the ball, individuals. These teams are not so far separated that you have to say this team is going to dominate or not. Let's look at AFC. Kansas City, all year, everyone has been saying unbeatable, great, quarterbacks, possible MVP. Last 4 weeks, they've been figured out. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of individuals that's in this playoff. So you guys tell me why Washington couldn't be a favorite, and what teams in here do you think could be a lock? Now, I know one of you are going to say Baltimore for the simple reason on Sunday they ran for over 400 yards. The quarterback was back, but I look at them as I look at Seattle. If their quarterback doesn't do the job is not getting done.
Right.
Well, the thing right off the bat,
Kansas City, nobody's figured out Kansas City really. But the team that I also look at with Kansas City, because I'm still going to throw them in there, is Buffalo. They put up 56 points, but this team seems to be complete. And you always say is which team is playing well going into the playoffs. Well, Buffalo is that team. And also Baltimore had the hiccup on the front end of the season, but they're starting to play well too. So I look at those two teams. The AFC is going to just be a fun group of teams to watch throughout the playoffs.
I think the AFC, I agree with Donna. I think the AFC is just totally loaded. I think that Buffalo right now is the scariest team in the conference. But I will say this, I think since Lamar came back from the COVID issue, he has played out of his mind. That team is, if they run the football, they're as good as anybody. And Lamar's presence makes them that much better. And this game against Tennessee now in Tennessee this weekend is one of those where if the Ravens don't get off to a quick start and grab a lead, it could be very detrimental to them in terms of playing from behind, because keep in mind what happened last year. Henry went for 195 yards against them and 3 or 4 touchdowns. In the game this year in Baltimore, they won it in overtime, but he had only 44 yards after 3 quarters and wound up with 133, including a game winner in overtime.
But you know what doesn't correlate? That's what we just said. Henry had all those yards, and you look at the last 2 or 3 games, he's had yards like that, but the offense is scoring, but the defense is not holding the other team. So when I look at Tennessee in here, I think they're very vulnerable. They're good on one stage that they can run the ball, but they can't stop anyone.
No, you're absolutely right. It's also payback. If you looked at what Ohio State did to Clemson in the college football playoffs, there's a lot about that. Baltimore, they've been stewing on this for a year.
Yep.
And I think they're going to gut them. And they're the most dangerous team to me because they have the most dangerous player at quarterback. And he doesn't get talked about like other quarterbacks. It's just like Hurst. They don't talk about him that way, yet he's accurate. He can run. It's who's projecting the image of these players. And it's not fair. But this kid is effective. He is accurate. He doesn't have the Gary Clark amongst Ricky Sanders. His game's inside game. I don't put him over Kansas City's QB, but I put him right under him.
Yeah.
He scares the heck out of me.
Tennessee, if they can control the clock, that would be I think would be another defensive effort against Baltimore. If they can turn up a ground game against Baltimore, that might be in their favor. But outside of that, the feat that brother has is just
unbelievable.
You'll fall slave to that.
Unbelievable. But he's got to win a playoff game, and he is 0 for 2 right now in first-round playoff games. And nobody questions his ability, his athleticism. He's become a much greater passer than he was 2 years ago.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that starts to work on your head after a while. If he goes in there and he loses a first-round game to Tennessee this year, then everybody's going to say, well, he can get to the playoffs, but he can't win in the playoffs.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah. 2 All-Pro linemen on their side out.
Who was that, Doc?
No, I'm just saying, Baltimore's playing without 2 All-Pro linemen that are done for the whole season.
Absolutely.
Haven't been there, and other guys wouldn't have been able to survive it. He survives everything. And I'm telling you, we'll see. But right now, if I were a wagering man, if I had Gary Clark's money, I'm riding with the Ravens.
That's a hard one to follow right there. If I had Gary Clark's money, I wouldn't even be doing this show right
You
now.
ain't lying. I'm wondering about that right now. Yeah.
They
I'm
got
trying to
Hollywood.
figure out why he doing it.
They
I
got
don't
Hollywood.
know. Ratings, he's
Hollywood-
helping me.
They
Yeah, I'll
got
tell you
Hollywood
what,
Brown
boy.
on the outside, but Gary Clark could have been Hollywood for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he
Gary
is
You
a
mean
Hollywood.
Hollywood could have been
He
Gary?
was.
That's
Yeah.
what you mean.
Don't
Yeah.
tell him that.
Don't tell
You know
me.
something, Tony, you make a good point. And pardon me, but I asked Gary to come to a deal. You almost like you. I'm embarrassed to ask him, but he does it. Like he'll come out, and I can't believe he's there. But you know what I mean? I know you feel like you got Gary Clark, dude. I'm like, wow, you know, it's big. It's big.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. If this is what you think about it, that's the way they used to do. We got a couple of minutes. I hate we having such a lot of fun, guys. We got to get back. But Adam, just one answer. Who do you think? Which team are you looking at in the playoffs as being the team that's going to come on the other side with the trophy?
Well, I like Green Bay, but watch out for Tennessee, as we were talking about, because Derrick Henry is a power back, and that'll be the key for Baltimore. If not, he could run over a lot of defenses, and Tennessee could make a run to the Super Bowl.
Craig.
I think to me, Buffalo right now is the scariest team out there, just because of the way Allen's playing, and let's not forget Stephon Diggs in all of this as well.
Beast.
Yeah.
You know what? And not only forget those players, let's forget it may be 3 inches of snow and it may be 20 below up there, and that will come into play.
And Phillip Rivers isn't going to handle that real well.
No.
Hey, my two teams are going to be Green Bay and Buffalo, and for many reasons, the least of which the weather plays in their favor, and they've got pretty good quarterbacks on both of those teams, and they all playing well right now. I give the defensive effort to Buffalo versus Green Bay's defense, but at Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't. He's another Tom Brady in my head.
Doc.
Yeah, this is the last hurrah for New Orleans. They don't get it done right now. You can stick a fork in them. I think they're prime because their defense is there. They've got a sledgehammer back. They got a Hall of Fame quarterback. If those receivers post up, and they haven't done it all year, they've been hurt. Right. But if they're ready to play, if the Saints don't win this, I'll be stunned.
Wow. I mean, okay, I got Adam already. Donna, and we got G, and we only got about 30 seconds.
I'm not giving away Kansas City until somebody can beat them. And I think Buffalo is the scary one too. But I'm like blocked for the other way, the Saints.
G, really quick.
Why not? Washington football team.
Come on.
I've been somebody gonna say that.
Spoken like a true homer.
I've been waiting for that. When we come back next week, we'll be talking about. We're not even going to talk about the picks this week because I went 4-1. Nobody beat me, so I'm not saying anything.
Wow.
Else about that. You see what the picks are.
Novena, great job.
Also, you need to know that we have 3 more shows left. We're going on into the playoffs, so come back next week. We got special guests. But one thing we want you to know is we're looking at this Washington team, and we're happy that they're in the playoffs, but we're happy that individuals such as yourself still follow them. So as we say, never goodbye. See you next week and see you in the minute.